The film starts with a prologue explaining a character named Nirmata, known as the architect of advanced AI, who is seen as a god to all AI, and is worshipped by them. It follows with ads on artificial intelligence being incorporated into American society to make things easier for mankind. AI robots participate in medicine, sports, agriculture, and basically every area. The ads also suggest that people's facial features can be scanned for them to look more realistic. In 2055, it is shown that a nuclear warhead detonates in Los Angeles due to the AI created by the US government, incinerating over 1 million people. The military begins a mission to eradicate all AI across the country, but they find resistance from New Asia, who harbor the remaining AI as fellow citizens. The USS Nomad, North American Orbital Mobile Aerospace Defense, a massive space station, is created and used to scan the grounds for signs of AI to wipe them out and find the so-called Nirmata, creator of the AI. 10 years later, Sergeant Joshua Taylor is living in Koh Nang, New Asia, with his pregnant wife Maya. She has a closer connection to the AI than Joshua does, and he has a prosthetic arm and leg. The bond they share is so strong, making them say silly jokes about their baby. Shortly after, their home is visited by a team of droid officers led by Harun, who brings an American soldier into the house. Joshua privately interrogates the man, who happens to be his friend and commanding officer Drew. Joshua is undercover in his marriage, as his officials believe they have found Nirmata. When the forces outside begin a raid, Maya overhears the truth about Joshua being an undercover agent with the US. She immediately picks up a gun and feels compassion towards her AI family, stating that she can't leave them. Joshua explains that they are not real, just robots. Knowing Joshua would not understand, she immediately runs away in an attempt to escape on a boat, but an explosive dropped by Nomad lands among her group, apparently killing her while Joshua watches. The creator. 5 years later, Joshua relies on PTSD meds to cope with the death of his wife. He works at Ground Zero in Los Angeles as part of a cleaning crew. During one of his patrols, he and his partner encounter a droid that still has some power left, screaming its owner's name as Joshua shuts it down. His partner is in shock, viewing it as akin to putting a human out of their misery. Alone, Joshua continues to reminisce about his time with Maya, watching videos that evoke both smiles and tears. Not long after, General Andrews and Colonel Howell approach Joshua. They claim to have gathered intelligence that Nirmata is working in New Asia, close to where Joshua lived undercover. Nirmata is developing a superweapon that could potentially destroy Nomad, and they try recruiting Joshua to help stop them. He refuses, unwilling to revisit his past, explaining the loss of his wife and child that night. Howell immediately shows him a holographic video indicating that Maya is still alive and working at the facility developing the weapon. Joshua is told he is the only one who remembers the lab's layout, and can not only help win the war but also reunite with his wife. Joshua joins the crew heading toward New Asia, led by Howell, who shares her personal resentment for AI due to losing her sons in the war. She hopes Joshua finds his wife. The mercenaries land on New Asia's soil, holding the locals hostage to force compliance. Storming the lab, they fire at technicians before advancing. Joshua splits from the team, reaching the camera room and searching for Maya. While soldiers cruelly interrogate technicians, a crossfire ensues. Joshua enters a room to find the supposed weapon, a small robot girl watching cartoons. Before he can apprehend her, a woman guarding the child shoots at Joshua and orders the girl to run. The robot girl escapes to a farm, and shortly after, Joshua crawls out too. A gunfight erupts between New Asia's forces and Nomad's mercenaries, nearly wiping out the soldiers. Nomad locks a missile onto the base, leading to its explosive destruction. The child. In the morning, the New Asian authorities are scouting the area for the soldiers who attack their base. Nearby, Joshua encounters the child on the bank of a river and asks her to scram. As Joshua departs from the area, he encounters a wounded soldier named Shipley, and moves him to a nearby house. He finds the girl inside a house watching TV, where he witnesses her using her power to remotely control electronics. Howell gets in touch with Joshua and orders for the weapon to be destroyed, but Joshua notes that it's just a girl. Howell, however, still orders him to pull through with the order, as she gets arrested by New Asian authorities along with a fellow comrade. Joshua is about to carry out the order, noticing an Alpha Omega symbol she sketched. On recognizing it, he immediately stops as they are found by an adult droid who orders Joshua to drop his weapon. The droid is amazed at seeing a child droid with advanced tech. While the droid promises to kill Joshua, he reaches for a gun on the floor, prompting Joshua to shoot him. This alerts nearby droid forces to their location. Calming the girl, Joshua inquires about his wife's whereabouts, to which she replies with the unfamiliar word, Dien Dang. As forces start firing on the house, Joshua carries Shipley and the girl droid into a van, where the girl remotely starts the vehicle, and they drive off. Meanwhile, Howell and her subordinate McBride are taken into custody in a van. They hijack the vehicle by killing the droid officer and the driver, and head back towards Joshua's location. On the road, Shipley succumbs to his injuries. Spotting an oncoming vehicle, Joshua prepares the girl to pretend she is a real person, giving her the name Alfie. Joshua and Alfie hitch a ride with a family after abandoning the van. Shortly after, Howell and McBride reach Joshua's deserted vehicle, remove Shipley's body, upload his consciousness to a drive, and place the drive in a droid. With limited time, they discover that Joshua has the child. At night, Joshua, Alfie, and the family pass to a checkpoint where Alfie uses her power to disable the authorities' electronics. Joshua takes over the van when they start shooting, managing to escape despite the family's terror. Joshua and Alfie then take a train going into the city after avoiding detection. On their way, Alfie asks Joshua about heaven, to which he says he won't go there because only good people go there. Joshua mistakes droids for Maya, only to be disappointed. The friend. In a flashback scene, Joshua is given orders by a fellow soldier named Drew to spy on her, gain her trust, and gather intel on Maya because she is the daughter of Nirmata. He also tells him not to fall in love on the mission, but it's too late now. Joshua and Alfie arrive at a droid-making factory to meet with Drew, who now lives with his own robot girlfriend, Cammy. Drew has since changed his mindset on the AI community and works with Joshua and Cammy to examine Alfie. It is determined that Alfie has not reached the full potential of her powers and can become the most powerful being alive with the ability to remotely control any piece of technology from anywhere on the planet and would be unstoppable. Later, a knock is heard at the door after Cammy orders ice cream for Alfie, but it turns out to be a bomb orchestrated by a droid officer, which kills Cammy instantly. Before they can try to kill Alfie, Joshua manages to take out all the droid officers and vanishes from the scene with Drew and Alfie. More officers, now joined by Howell and McBride, arrive and admit that they need backup. Drew is helping Joshua track Maya's beacon, which leads them back to the beach house where Maya was killed. A group of AI planes is scouring the area. They immediately spot Drew and fire, which leaves him gravely wounded. Drew takes his final breath as he explains that Maya herself is Nirmata. Unable to see his wife, Joshua turns to Alfie and shouts at her to reveal Maya's location. This brings Alfie to tears, but Joshua apologizes. Joshua carries Alfie to escape from the scouts, but they are captured by a team of soldiers led by Harun. Fortunately, they are familiar faces to Alfie and also Maya's people who Joshua betrayed. The mother. Joshua wakes up on a ship where he is locked in a cell. Harun speaks to him and tells him that the Los Angeles explosion was a man-made coding error that was blamed on the AI, as well as how Maya became Nirmata after her father, the original Nirmata, died. He says that AI would never harm humanity, explaining that if AI wins the war, absolutely nothing would happen to the West, and they also want to live in peace. Joshua requests to see Maya one last time. Harun says he will also not bring Joshua to Nirmata, and they are using him to get to her. Outside, the AI robots begins to panic, hearing voices over the comms from a base, saying they have found them. Nomad immediately locks a missile and utterly destroys the base. Joshua escapes his cell and gets shot at, forcing him to jump into the water, but he holds on to the ship's hull. After the ship arrives at a village, Harun sees AI robots mourning their dead from the Nomad casualty. Harun's men exclaim that they can't hide from Nomad anymore. Harun explains that Alfie can destroy the machine but she is too young and not ready yet. At night, Joshua sneaks his way to find Alfie and recover her. Not long after, Howell and her forces arrive to attack the village, utilizing gigantic machines along with a suicide bomb. Harun's men prepare for the attack. As missiles are being shot by the gigantic machines, the AI robots also retaliate. Howell sends a robot that runs into the village to self-detonate over a bridge where Harun's men are trying to defend. Shooting the robot has no effect on it as it executes its orders. A second suicide robot runs across the bridge, but Alfie walks in front of it and uses her power to shut it down. McBride then shoots Alfie. Joshua immediately steps in and shoots McBride in the knee. In McBridge's attempt to shoot, Joshua takes him out. Due to Alfie being shot, her connection is broken with the suicide robot. Joshua immediately swings into action, carrying Alfie away from the robot before it finally detonates on the bridge. Harun escapes on his ship and heads to a temple where Maya is and Alfie could also be restored. While on their journey, he explains to Joshua that Maya could have made Alfie hate humans, but she put love into her and made her from a scan of the embryo of their child. We see a flashback of Maya programming Alfie, and where Maya explains that she was in an AI village where Nomad attacked. There was a little girl bleeding to death, and when the mother saw that the child was dead, she switched herself off, stating that underneath, humans and robots are the same. Maya explains that the war has to stop. Joshua is brought to the temple as he hands Alfie over to the monks. He notices how AI robots take care of human children like they were their own. On entering the temple, Joshua asks if this is Dian-Dang. The monk tells him that the word means heaven. Joshua discovers that Maya has been in a coma for the last 5 years, having lost her child, and since the robots cannot harm Nirmata, they are unable to take her off life support. Since Alfie was made from the skin of Maya's unborn child, essentially making Alfie their daughter. While Joshua is in tears, Alfie is hugging her mother. Joshua looks at his wife once more and tells her that he is sorry and he wishes he could be with her again before pulling the plug. This utterly destroys him. Howl and her cavalry then arrive at the temple, taking out the AI robots. She enters the temple and tries to bring Joshua and Alfie in. She immediately attempts to copy Maya's consciousness to a drive. Haroon enters immediately and throws a bomb at Howl, but Alfie manages to stop the detonation, to Howl's surprise. Unfortunately for her, her 2 goons try to shoot at Alfie, and before Howl can call them off, the bomb kills all 3 of them. As more forces arrive to attack, Haroon tells Joshua that Nomad must be destroyed in order for the war to end. Joshua takes the drive where Maya's consciousness was copied on their way out. Unfortunately, Joshua and Alfie are taken by US officers who explain that he is a war hero before separating the two, as they are put on 2 separate planes. Immediately, Nomad locks a missile and destroys the base. Joshua and Alfie are brought back to Los Angeles, where Andrews orders Joshua to kill Alfie, ensuring a painless death. Joshua enters the room where they appear to share a brief, tearful final moment before Joshua pulls the trigger. Joshua tells Andrews that being the when she is incinerated would mean a lot to him. En route to the incinerator, news of anti-Nomad protesters forming in the streets comes out. Joshua, being in the van with Alfie, gives the signal, to which Alfie wakes up and makes the van lose power as it ends up crashing in the street. Alfie is still alive and planned with Joshua to fake her death so they can escape. The two make their way onto a lunar shuttle heading toward Nomad. Joshua's card is rejected at the robot checkpoint. When the robot asks what their purpose for traveling, Alfie answers, "To be free," to which it approves their flight. Andrews realizes the ruse too late and begins to make plans to use Nomad to strike down on the remaining AI bases. While the plane Joshua and Alfie boarded are given orders to turn back, Alfie gains control of the aircraft and lands it on Nomad. Joshua and Alfie make their way through armed guards and eject them into space while holding on to the aircraft. While Nomad tries to lock their targets on different AI bases, Joshua informs Alfie to turn off Nomad's power in the control room so he can blow the place up, and also gives her the drive to which Maya's consciousness was transferred, explaining that this is the plan that her mother always wanted. She quickly runs to the control room. Meanwhile, Andrew launches the missiles before Alfie uses her ability to completely shut down Nomad's power momentarily as Joshua tries to plant an explosive on one of their missiles. While they make their way to an escape pod, Alfie finds a room full of humanoid robot bodies and finds one of Maya, calling it Mother, putting her consciousness inside in an attempt to wake her up and bring her with her and Joshua, but it looks like she is unsuccessful. A missile has already destroyed a base, and the remaining are already headed to other locations. As Joshua waits for Alfie, he loses oxygen, but Alfie makes it just in time to prepare the escape pod as she activates the oxygen in the room. Andrews activates a giant tentacle robot that tries to get Alfie, but Joshua steers it away from her. Alfie then manages to disable the robot. Suddenly, the bomb Joshua planted detonates, and the missiles sent to the AI bases lose connection, but he is left trapped aboard Nomad after getting Alfie to safety. They share a final moment together, stating their love for each other. Alfie is in tears as Joshua knows that she has to survive, leaving him to eject Alfie. While Nomad destroys, he then walks out and finds the Maya robot, who recognizes him. They embrace and kiss one more time as the explosive begins to obliterate Nomad. Alfie watches in tears. Meanwhile, the halt of the missile strike and the destruction of Nomad makes Andrews and the rest of his goons look defeated. Alfie's pod returns to Earth. She witnesses everyone celebrating the destruction of Nomad, which indicates freedom, including Haroon, who experiences tears of joy due to their final victory. Behold, Alfie gives a mesmerizing smile. The end. Please subscribe to support the channel and stay updated for more videos. See you next time.